What's good, y'all? It's your boy Fisk Vegas, the hardest voice in sports. If you have not already liked this video and subscribed to my channel, please do so now. Alright, now let's get it. Chris Paul going to the Rockets. I love it. I do. I love it. From just a pure competition in the West standpoint, I love it. Because you know what? I thought that a team like Houston that shoots as many threes as it does has a chance to beat the Warriors. You know, I thought that if they could add Paul George, because all the pros, all the people who get paid, all the insiders, they've all said that Daryl Morey wouldn't have made this deal if he didn't have a second deal in place. So he's gonna try and get Paul George. Everybody talking about Melo, I don't believe that. Melo and D'Antoni can't stand each other. And why would Melo? Ain't Melo trying to get back with Lala? Why would he go all the way to Houston? And he trying to get back with Lala. At least if he in Cleveland, that's like a couple hour flight back and forth to New York. Whatever. This ain't about it. Anyway, if they get Paul George, it can work. I'm assuming they're going to get Paul George. Now, if they don't get Paul George, what did you really do? Because you got to the second round last year. All you're really going to do is go back to the second round and play against the Spurs. Does getting Chris Paul and your team make you better than San Antonio? That's really the question we got to ask ourselves here, because the way I see it is, if you're just getting Chris Paul, then this is a waste of time, because you're not going to be, even if you get Paul George, you might not beat the Warriors. You still might not beat the Warriors, but it will put you past San Antonio, and that's a fact. I said all that to say this. If you don't get Paul George, you're going to get bounced in the second round again. Because I personally don't think that you're going to get past the Spurs. I think that they're a better matchup against the Warriors than they are against the Spurs. Mike D'Antoni cannot beat Greg Popovich. It's a fact. He can't. It's like certain people have other people's numbers. It's like my Giants in football. We can't fuck with Philly. We beat Philly like once the past 5 years, man. Certain teams have other teams' numbers. It's just Mike D'Antoni never beats Greg Popovich. That's a bad matchup. Now, my whole biggest beef with this deal is, even this, besides the fact that it barely makes you better than the Spurs, and you're still not going to beat the Warriors, didn't they just try this 2 years ago with Ty Lawson? I could have sworn they just tried this 2-point guard experiment shit 2 years ago with Ty Lawson. See, people forget Ty Lawson was a beast out there in Denver. People seem to forget that. Ty Lawson was leading that team to the second round of the playoff, shit like that. Ty Lawson was no bum. They tried to make him and Harden mesh together, and it ain't work. Now you're gonna do the same thing with Chris Paul. What happens when Chris Paul start cursing James Harden out because he not playing defense, or start yelling at people, and you know how that gonna work? James Harden just led the league in assists. Why would you bring Chris? Listen, y'all. I'm a football guy, but I do know my basketball, so I don't want to say something. It sounds stupid, but how the fuck is this gonna work? Can y'all please go into the comments and explain to me what kind of sense this makes? You would think with a guy like James Harden, you would go and get, you know, somebody like Paul George, Melo. Blake Griffin made more sense in my opinion. You would think you would go out there and get somebody who can play with him, not take half of his duties away from him, because they do the same thing. So what it looks like to me is you got an ISO 2 guard, and you got a floor general for a point guard. I mean, I don't know. And the way Mike D'Antoni runs his offense, I mean, if James Harden is going to be fine running those screens and shooting threes all game and not racking up assists and going to the lane as much, then fine. I don't know. But you know what? Mike D'Antoni's a great coach. And Daryl Morey, for the most part, he knows what he's doing. So, you know, I leave it at that. But overall, Fisk Vegas, I approve this trade, because you know what? Even though the Warriors are like Goliath right now, somebody got to be David. Eventually, somebody got to be David, man. You know, I know the Warriors are Goliath right now, but somebody got to be David. And if you're Daryl Morey, why not us? And, you know, they're saying that they're going to get Paul George. So, if you do the deal, you got Chris Paul, and now you bring on Paul George, anything can happen. So, congratulations, Houston. Got Chris Paul. You guaranteed to win 55 to 57 games again. And lastly, I must say this. I love Daryl Morey. He's my favorite GM because every season he does something to make his team better. He doesn't sit on his ass. He doesn't just be comfortable. He always makes moves. He fires coaches. He brings in new coaches that fit his system. He tried to get an all-star Ty Lawson from Denver. He got Dwight Howard. He almost had Chris Bosh. He's always doing something, is my point. So you know what? If you're a fan of a team, you gotta look. You gotta wish you had a GM like Daryl Morey. Anyway, y'all, my name is Fisk Vegas. Now I approve this message.